we were speaking of legends of Off Broadway, and so I think we'll introduce another one of our legends of Off Broadway. This might be the appropriate time, since everyone in the theater, as you've just heard, wants to work with Austin Pendleton. And we're lucky that he wears so many hats. You can act with him, you can be directed by him, you can appear in a musical or a play that he's written, you can be his acting or directing student, you can have him program your play at HB Playwrights Foundation. I mean, if you're very lucky, you can do these things. When you ask him about his polymath talents or which he prefers most, he says, whatever anybody asks me to do. I'll do it. And he does it all so brilliantly that it's no wonder that people keep asking. This season alone, he's demonstrated his breathtaking versatility. We've enjoyed Between Riverside and Crazy, his fresh take on Hamlet, his nuanced performance as the befuddled father in Young Jean Lee's Straight White Men. And Austin had his off-Broadway debut in 1962 with Oh Dad, Poor Dad, directed by Jerome Robbins, and he's been acting, writing, and directing in an incredible variety of wonderful, rich, memorable work ever since. And when I say memorable, I'm not kidding. His performance in The Last Sweet Days of Isaac, which I saw in 1970, just so awed me and blew me away. It's a 33-year-old man who is recording everything he's doing because he's certain that his life is not going to continue much longer. And so in 1970, this spoke to people in late adolescence in an enormous way, I can tell you. And it seared into my brain. And I remember really thinking, watching Austin, wow, I got to be involved in this in some way. So finally, here we are. His direction of Three Sisters at CSC, and as a writer, Orson's Shadow was a wonderful and amazing show. The thing that all his work has in common is the gracious humanity, the sharp intelligence, the boundless energy and enthusiasm that he brings to every project. His canny advice to those he mentors gives a clue to his extraordinary productive career. It's not a philosophy, it's the next interesting thing that comes along. So, ladies and gentlemen, a Renaissance man of the American theater, with many more interesting things to come, a legend of Off-Broadway. Please welcome Austin Pendleton.
Thank you, Peter. I have no idea what to say. Well, except that I was sitting at a table just now with Neil Pepe and with Oscar Eustis and with the people from the Fiasco Theater. And well, it's been said before, I'm going to say it again, you don't get to be a legend unless you hang around with legends. And there's Oscar and there's Neil and Brian and Carol Rothman and Brian Kulick, all in this one year. That's just luck. There are a lot of very gifted people around, and every once in a while, everything comes together, and you get to work with people like that who are artists and who also manage to maintain theaters that do the kind of work that everybody wants to do and keep them running. I mean, they keep them running. There are support systems. There are, you have productive arguments with them. They come running out into the street when you shout into your cell phone that you're that you can't function like this, you know, and you feel very, very special when they do that for you, and then you realize they have to do that 27 times a year, you know, and plus raise money, plus keep their subscribers happy without in any way violating the integrity of what they do, and so you get very lucky. since Peter mentioned Oh Dad, Poor Dad, in, again, 1962, I was off the bus at that moment, and just off of it. And I wound up in that play, directed by Jerry Robbins. And we did it for a year. Two very great actresses were in it, Jo Van Fleet and Barbara Harris. And the majority of the scenes I had were with Barbara Harris. And about, I'm not gonna, 2-3 weeks into the run of the year that we did it, I began to realize I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, really realize in front of people that I didn't know what I was doing. And things began to devolve on stage. So, and it was an off-Broadway contract, so you could have a 2-week out. So I said to the stage manager, I have to quit. This is getting really embarrassing, and I gotta quit, and I don't know. So the stage manager, whose name is Tom Stone, called me the next day. He said, on the way to the theater tonight, why don't you stop and see Jerry Robbins? And I thought, okay, all right. And I did, and Jerry said, so you can quit? And I said, yeah, you probably don't realize this, I said, but my performance has really been falling apart. He says, no, we have a thing called a performance report. I'm very aware that your performance is falling apart. And the first time I ever heard of a performance report, first time I ever heard of a lot of things happening, you know. And so he said, well, look, I can't stop you. You have a 2-week out. I don't want you to quit. I said, but your name is on this show. People come in and see it, and they think you directed this. And I'm just not being able to do it. He said, well, all right, I understand. If you quit, you won't ever act again. First of all, no one will want to hire you. And secondly, you'll be too scared to act ever again. And I want you to act for the rest of your life. So, think about that. So I stayed. On that night, I gave a really good performance. But then again, after a couple weeks, things started to unravel again. And all through this year, I was acting as I say, in the majority. First of all, there was the inspiration of Jo Van Fleet, but the one I was acting with the most was Barbara Harris, who, as I'm sure a lot of you realize, is a great artist. And she's, among other things, a jazz artist. And the way, as an actress, and the way she would accommodate the different forms I found to fall apart on stage during the year, which were endlessly inventive. To just completely decompose, was really, I learned more about acting from watching her struggling to deal with me. And the other thing that happened also in the play was an actor, still a good friend of mine, by the name of Barry Primus. And I said to him one night, Jerry wants me to stay in the show, but now it's all coming apart again. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to leave after what he told me, but I don't know how to stay either. What should I do? He says, I have a suggestion. And he gave me subway directions, literally, to HB Studio. He said, you go down and you audition for Uta Hagen. So I did, and I got in her class. And things like a ship crippled in the water that slowly starts to turn around and go back to where it should be started to happen. I still, I teach there now. But so there are all these giant people then. And then Jerry put me in the second show after that he did, which was Fiddler on the Roof. So I had a year of acting with Zero Mostel. And whatever I couldn't learn from anybody else. I could go on about that, but let's just say that was a great wind that is still blowing behind me for the past 50 years. And where there was he just taught me there isn't any kind of limit to what you can do. And all of this is the kind of thing that is what luck actually is. It's when who's there for you when you're down. And so I want to thank all those people, and about 700 other people who I could mention in the intervening years, but I won't, because we have to eat and everything. But thank you, and thank the Off Broadway Alliance for this. And they're also honoring Linda Lavin. She's a legend too. I emailed her and I said, so we get to be legends together. And she said, you're going to have to be a legend without me. I'm going to be in Israel that day. So I'm sure it's going to be mentioned, but she's, But she's another inspiration. I could go on and on. I just want to thank you all very much.